Hiya guys, me again. Quick video in response, a response that I expected to the post yesterday about is Buddhism a religion? I bung this up, got responses you'd expect to get from Westerners with just about half a clue. One guy on YouTube, no, for it to be a religion there has to be belief. Buddhists don't base their teachings at all on belief. Wars are started based on belief, fair enough. So no, it's a teaching of losing ego and belief and just being. Okay, let's go with that. So, is Buddhism teaching based on the dissolution of self? Yes. Is it based on ridding yourself of beliefs? Eventually, yes. This is what Nagarjuna was talking about when he wanted to get rid of all drishtis. Drishti is Sanskrit for a view, usually taken to mean a metaphysical view, metaphysical commitment. Nagarjuna says, for us to reach liberation, get rid of them drishtis. Did the Buddha say that though? Maybe not. Is it about just being? Well, maybe. Do you know any Buddhist monks that walk around just being? Or do they practice their religion and consider arguments and read scripture and chant and do all this other stuff? Anyway, I could list off the top of my head loads of things that Buddhists believe in. And the whole situation starts with belief. They believe in the three jewels, they believe in the Buddha and the teachings and the Sangha. You know, they believe in all sorts of stuff, demons, gods, hell realms, heaven realms. There's tons of stuff that Buddhists believe in. They don't believe in a creator God. So what? Functionally, it's still religious. And I will do an extended video on this. I wanted to touch on, while we're here, where this sort of notion comes from. So, I will say this. If your flavour of Buddhism is solely exposure to the Pali Canon, then you might think that all the added in stuff about gods and hell realms and effectively Mahāyāna teachings are just added on later variations, no use, probably not proper Buddhism, not real Buddhism. And this is a pernicious view. It's been around for a long time. And there's a reason for that. It's largely accidental. We found many years ago complete collections of the Pali Canon. And they're quite old, granted. They survived in their entirety. Largely British Indologists got onto this. And once they found them, they gave them a type of primacy. Since then, over the past 200-300 years, we found loads and loads of Buddhist canons. The Tibetan canon is well different to the Pali Canon. The East Asian canon is well different to the Pali Canon. The Chinese canon, well different again. All these things are separate to each other. They deal with common themes and centre around one common notion, which is liberation. And they agree on fundamental stuff, but the way they deal with things is really different. And at the risk of sounding incredibly arrogant, if you've read more than one book on Buddhism, you pick this up pretty quickly. The other thing we've got to say is, actually, this split between Pali teachings, the Theravāda teachings, and the Mahāyāna teachings probably isn't as clear-cut as we've previously been led to believe. And again, this is a pernicious viewpoint. Most people with a vague familiar with Buddhism will say, oh yeah, Theravāda, the old ways, the original Buddhism, they preserved the lineage for 2,500 years. Fine, okay. Read this book. This is by a guy, Richard Salomon, okay? Superb read. The Buddhist literature of ancient Gandhara. What Richard Salomon has found over the past 40 or 50 years is that in Gandhara, the sort of region around where Pakistan meets Afghanistan, what they found there is script in the Gandhari language, which kind of blow this Pali primacy thing out the water a little bit. So what we've managed to decipher is, in Gandhara, both Theravāda teachings and Mahāyāna teachings were being taught at the same time. There was no apparent distinction between them. Sutras deal with both at once. Not saying one is worse than the other, one is more true than the other, one is more older than the other. But here's the clincher. The earliest Gandhari manuscripts that we have access to are older than the Pali Canon. Alright? Think about that for a second. They're older than the Pali Canon, which shows what? Well, it shows that Mahāyāna and Theravāda split was not this big distance in time as previously thought. They aren't set apart from each other over a great period. It might even mean that both things sprung up organically and were taught together, as we see here, very early on. And what that would also mean is that this idea about Buddhism being quite dry, the Theravādian sort of process being the real one, the Mahāyāna extrapolations being weird later additions by people who didn't know much, might not be true. And so the confidence in saying, like, no, for it to be a religion is absolutely mind-blowing. Look, Buddhism is a philosophy, yeah? It is a religion. Christianity has tons of philosophy, some of which look quite similar to Buddhism if you look in the right places. If you look at the hesychasts and people like Maximus the Confessor, John the Damascene, early Orthodoxy, early Church Fathers, it looks a lot like Buddhism. Sikhi has philosophy, still a religion. Islam has philosophy, still a religion. All of these things can be true at once.